my name's Callie Carr, and I'll be doing my first vlog on the Goopherd Grapevines, so let's get into it. This is the Goopherd Grapevine by Charles W. Chestnut. This is just a short summary about the story, just for anyone who hasn't read this or kind of forgot some of the details, just as a reminder. So this story is about a man who moves his sick wife Annie to a warmer climate per doctor's orders. Their hope is to find a plantation to grow grapes. He finds a vineyard and brings his wife to take a look at it. While they're there, they run into Julius. Julius is a black man who is living on the uncultivated land, and he tries to convince them not to buy the vineyard because of an old curse, or the Goopherd. The curse was a result of the previous owner, Mars Dougal McAdoo, visiting Aunt Peggy, the local conjure woman whom he asked to cast a spell on the grapes, so the Negroes would stop eating them up. As Julius tells the story, any Negro who ate the grapes would die. They had several deaths on the plantation, including a new slave named Henry, who ate the grapes unknowingly and nearly died because of his usefulness to the plantation. Mars Dougal took the new slave to Aunt Peggy to unlock the spell. Because she was successful in saving his life, the slave formed a bond with the grapes, getting physically old and tired when the grapes die, and more youthful when the new grapes come in the spring. Mars Dougal sees this as an advantage and sells the slave and buys him back several times, profiting off the ups and downs of his youthfulness and his work abilities, selling at a high price and then buying him back at a lower price when in bad health. Enter a buyer who claims that he can help the vineyard but only succeeds in killing the vines, and in turn the Goopherd man, Henry. McAdoo does leave for war and never comes home. Julius continues to tell the curse story and doesn't spare any of it on the man and his sick wife who hear out the story and decide to take their chances on the vineyard. They obviously have success, and they also offer Julius a job on the plantation. So now on to the pictures on the right of the screen. I feel like this is a good representation of Annie and her husband. They're made up in Sunday's best. They're rich. They have these thick clothing on because they used to live in the north. I just feel like this is a really good representation of them. And then Julius on the far right, he's older. His clothing's kind of weathered, kind of old. And then below the screen, I feel like this is what the plantation looks like. It's real big. There's a plantation house. And I just feel like this is a lot what I imagined when I was reading this story. All right, now on to my stance. In my opinion, I feel like Charles Chestnut wanted his audience, especially the white readers at the time, to learn about the hardships that African Americans had to face in the 1950s and 60s. Chestnut wanted his audience to sympathize for Julius and not the couple. My initial thought was that Julius was the bad guy because he was trying to shoo away the Northerners at first, but going back and rereading, I found empathy for Julius McAdoo. It appeared that the couple was trying to do the right thing for the sake of their health and also give Julius a job, so the ending appears to favor the white couple, although if you look at it in a larger perspective, the man from the north is seemingly a carpetbagger. He ultimately takes advantage of the southern land and the opportunity it offers. Julius, who has spent his life on the plantation, feels threatened and cultivates a story to keep the buyers off of his land away. The unfairness is seen in that Julius has worked on the plantation, loves and knows the plantation, yet can never own the plantation. He sees the grapes that are thriving as his and attempts to steer the privileged couple away. Julius feels that he must save his home and source of income and is forced to lie to try to protect his livelihood. Although the couple offers to hire Julius, giving him the opportunity to work and stay in his home, he is ultimately being taken advantage of. Although slavery is over, Uncle Julius is forced because of his skin color to take the job that is most likely lower paid than what he was making selling the surviving grapes on the uncultivated land. Julius is a victim of society in that the new owner knows that he will not refuse to offer. Chestnut's goal was that the reader would understand the hardships that African Americans faced and the hopelessness they may have felt despite the years and years of hard labor. I also thought this was a good representation of the grapes. This little picture over here on the right. My thoughts. What I liked overall, I liked the short story and the meaning behind it. I thought it was very meaningful that Chestnut would write about this at the time. It was very historical, something that I can relate back to in my American history class this semester. I thought that was pretty cool. I love how the author intertwined the realistic life with the couple and Julius with the magical fable all in one story. I've never read anything like that, so it was a first. It was kind of confusing at first, but I thought it was pretty cool. And lastly, after researching, I learned that Charles Chestnut is of mixed race descent. The publishing company did not know this until after they published it. So I found this very empowering for Chestnut. It's just something to think about, because what if they did know that he was mixed? Like, would they have published this? Would they have published this, but the audience favored the Northerners and not Julius? Would their thoughts have changed? I feel like that's just something to think about. And I just kind of felt like it was really empowering on Chestnut's part. On to my dislikes. I did not like the dialect. It was very difficult to read, so I ended up listening to an audiobook to help me understand it better. It's not that I didn't like the Ugly Truths or dislike it, but it was just kind of sad to read about what the African Americans had to go through back then. It ultimately makes the story something that is depressing for the audience to read. Although it is inevitable, can't change it, but it is something sad. But Chestnut felt like it needed to be said. So, and what's your opinion? Thoughts, questions, comments, any critiques? Just let me know. And my works cited for one of the pictures.